Hi guys, I'm Dani, aka Yogi Guy. Thank you for joining me today. Today's video isn't going to be a yoga session. Instead, this is going to be more of a diary entry, something I've been planning for a while. I just haven't gotten to it. Today is going to cover endometriosis specifically, but in future, all kinds of topics, including life lessons that I have been able to gather over my very short time on this earth. And I'm hoping that whatever it is that I share on this channel with you, someone out there benefits in some way. And if there is anyone who has any questions, or if there is any one who relates to anything that I've got to share, I'm hoping you will comment below and let me know what your story is. So let's begin with the most important question. What is endometriosis? Endometriosis is an inflammatory condition which causes the lining of the uterus to grow on the outside. It latches onto just about anything, including vital organs. The bowels can be affected, as well as the reproductive organs, which sometimes leads to infertility. And then the second question would probably be, what are the signs and the symptoms? So the signs and the symptoms are not the same for everyone, but there are some very common ones, which include bloating, severe pain in the pelvic area, mostly around that time of the month, but not limited to that time of the month. So you could also have breakthrough bleeds, very heavy periods, and periods that last for longer than what the normal amount of time would be. And there are 4 different stages to endometriosis, but this doesn't dictate the severity of the pain or the signs and symptoms that may occur. So someone with stage 1, which is the more milder version, or the mildest version of this condition, might have intense pains and feel horrible, but someone with stage 4, which is the worst, might not have any at all. And I've seen this for myself, where I know that the stage of the endometriosis doesn't dictate anything regarding your signs and symptoms. The signs and symptoms also include pain during or after sex. Fatigue is one of those symptoms, like extreme fatigue. And just because you are feeling these things doesn't necessarily mean that you have endometriosis. Unfortunately, this can only be confirmed through a laparoscopy, and that can be very difficult for most women to be able to get that procedure. It can be expensive, it can be scary, it might not even just be available to you, you might not even know what you're looking for, and that is very sad for so many of us. I think that the more we have people being aware of this illness and looking for answers, the sooner so many of us could get help, and the sooner so many of our family and friends can begin to understand what it is that we have to deal with. So it's no fault of yours if you don't know or haven't considered that this is something that could be affecting you. But if you feel something is wrong, it's always important to try and figure out what it is. Speak to your doctor, speak to your friends, speak to your family, and just try and do as much research as you possibly can, because your body is very important and only you know what it is that you're feeling. So just try to keep all of that in mind. And so I think this leads me to the next question, or the next point, which would probably be, what are the what are some of the common misconceptions from outsiders? People without endometriosis, people who could probably never have endometriosis. I'm talking to the men who just can't understand what we're going through. And then there's people who are capable of having endometriosis, but just haven't made the time to understand. So I think a lot of the time people think that you're faking it. They think that this couldn't be possible, that you could be in this much pain. They probably think that all women have periods, right? All women, well, not all women, but a lot of women do have cramping and pains and discomfort during that time. But to understand just how painful it is for someone with endometriosis, I often don't even have the words. I struggle to express the pain that I'm feeling. But for you to assume that a person is over exaggerating the pain that is debilitating in its own. For us to constantly reiterate the extent of the pain. I also think that a lot of the time people know that you've had an operation and they can't understand why you're still in pain. So that is a huge misconception, that once you've had the operation, you're cured. There is no cure for this illness. And so if you leave here with anything, it should be that people who are suffering with endometriosis, there is no cure. Another big one is that falling pregnant is going to magically cure you of this illness. Ladies, falling pregnant will probably stop the breakthrough bleeds if you're lucky. You probably might not have as many pains or signs and symptoms, but it's not going to get rid of it. You will come out of that pregnancy and you will still have to deal with endometriosis after that. That's not going to cure anything. And then one more after that I think a lot of the older people were told that this is something to consider, and without the proper education, the misconception continued, which is to have a hysterectomy. Having a hysterectomy is not going to solve your problems either. You may still experience pains and symptoms involved with endometriosis. So please don't assume that removing your uterus is going to stop the pains and get rid of everything. There is no cure. There's nothing out there at this point in time that is going to help you with this. And I think the last thing that I want people to know for this video is that just because you can't see the illness that I'm dealing with and many other women doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Doesn't mean that I'm making it up. Just because I made it out of my house today and I did some exercise or I met with friends doesn't mean I'm not in pain. Doesn't mean that that I'm not going to be in worse pain later on. And I want the family and friends of anybody who is suffering with this to have a little more patience and show a little more compassion. It's not easy living with an invisible illness. It's isolating, it's scary, and maybe just do some research, read. You might not be able to feel what we're feeling, but the moment we know that you're trying to understand, the better we feel. Because it's difficult to have to continuously cancel plans and make up excuses why you can't do certain things, because the thought of having to constantly explain the pain that you're in is oftentimes much worse than just dealing with the pain itself. So just be there for them. And if you are an Endo warrior, you are never alone. There's always someone who understands what you're going through. You just need to figure out the best way to take care of your body and your mind, improve your way of living. It's tough, but you have to give up a few things. Anything that helps you to lower the inflammation in your body and stress less, because those are the things that endometriosis thrives on. And you need to have patience with yourself too. We can treat this, and we can live better, for the most part at least, if we really just have patience with ourselves and treat our bodies right. So that's it. Thanks for joining me for this longer than I anticipated video. And I hope that you join me for the next session. I'll try not to cry as much.